Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? All right. You have made it to mid-afternoon. I hope you have enjoyed the conference very much. And I think that over the next 50 minutes, your enjoyment of this will increase exponentially because you're going to learn the value of expanding your market, your garden, through community partnerships, which would be very, very helpful. I want to just go over objectives really quickly here. We're here, hopefully when you leave here, you'll learn the role that gardens and farmers markets play in the health of Oklahomans, which is very important, to discover the value of partnerships for the sustainability of markets, and also to widen your breadth and depth of state and local partnership possibilities to keep your farmers markets going. One thing to know is Oklahoma needs you. Farmers markets, its partners and such, the state needs farmers markets because when combined with physical activity, eating better, more nutritiously can help you reach and maintain a healthy weight and even reduce your risk of chronic diseases like stroke, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, which sadly plagues our state a bit more often than many other states. Now I say that farmers markets and any source of veggies and fruits are important because this chart right here shows how we eat vegetables, which is to say, not super often. We need to eat more veggies. It shows here that depending on which county that you are, as many as almost 30% of people eat less than one vegetable per day on average, which is very, very low. And similarly, we have fruit consumption. Fruit consumption is also low here. In fact, of the 50 states, we rank 49th in how often that we eat fruits, which blows my mind because fruits are so very tasty. And so it's like, my goodness, how do we get out of this? How do we as Oklahomans become healthier and more vibrant in this situation? Well, I'll tell you how. Farmers markets. That's one way anyway. That's because from the freshest produce to local dairy, grains, and meats, as you well know, farmers markets offer a lot of variety of locally grown options to help you eat healthier. Is that not right? Sure. That's right. Plus, shoppers who buy local, they support their local food producers and the families and communities right where they live. So it's super important. And once again, farmers markets to the rescue. Now, I'm with TSET, and one of the campaigns, the ongoing messaging campaigns we have is Shape Your Future, which you can find at shapeyourfutureok.com. And it gives Oklahomans and many people resources and links and practical ways of how to eat better and move more and be tobacco free. One of the many things that website does is list a number of farmers markets throughout the state. As of right now, I went and counted, and there are 84 farmers markets that are listed that tells you when they are, where they are, things along those lines, which is even more than when I checked it out last year. So they are here in Oklahoma. They are making a difference. And Shape Your Future is one place where people can find out where you are or your local market. But again, farmers markets can help ensure our health, but how do we ensure the health of farmers markets? As it says, partnerships. Partnerships with a variety of people, variety of entities, keep the market vibrant. It keeps the vendors there. It keeps the financial support there. And many other ways that markets benefit from having these partnerships. And I would love to tell you about it. However, I know someone who could tell you far more and far better about this. That's my friend Susan Dobbins. So she will tell you one example of how this has taken place in Mustang and the wonderful work happening there. So Susan, please let them know.
Very good. All right. So the first thing that I want to make clear is I'm here just as a representative of Wildhorse Gardens and Market. I am only one part of a large group of about 30 people that work in the garden and the market year-round, and it's all of us that make the garden succeed. I also see a number of our partners here in the audience, so it's a good way. I'm going to share with you our story and hope that it helps you. So this is our beginning. We started as a project of the Mustang Kiwanis Club. The Mustang Kiwanis operates a food pantry on Saturdays, and its location, there was an empty lot behind of it. And so one of our members was concerned about people coming to the food pantry, and ours is more staples. We didn't have any fresh produce. So he talked to the owner of the land and got a lease on the property and started a community garden. And it was a couple of years after that I got involved in it. So we started out as a way to get fresh produce to people coming to our Mustang Kiwanis food pantry. Then we had local growers saying, well, that's interesting, you have a garden, you have excess produce, could we come sell with you? So we started our farmers market with Saturday mornings under a great big tree. So, and it was very successful. We operated there for about 4 or 5 years. And the sign says we had a Wednesday evening market, but we really didn't open that till we moved, because the location that we had this big, beautiful tree for shade on Saturday morning. On Wednesday evenings, there was no shade. So, but in 2013, the city of Mustang approached us and asked us the Kiwanis Club, and asked if we would move the garden to a city park. And we looked at several sites around the city. Those of you who know Mustang know that we have a huge municipal park called Wildhorse Park. The city set aside a quarter section of land, and that's where the community center is, the library is, the senior center, City Hall. So we also have a number of smaller parks throughout the city, and we looked at all of them and ultimately decided that really Wildhorse Park was the best place to put a community garden and the farmers market. There's a pavilion in front, on the front lawn of the community center, and that's where we moved the farmers market first, and then the next year moved the garden to Wildhorse. Well, it took us a year to get the land ready for a garden. So we moved the garden in 2015 and had huge rains in 2015. It completely flooded out our garden. I've never seen such sad looking tomato plants as we had that year. But when we made the move from being a project of the Kiwanis Club to being in the city park, we incorporated and also sought 501c3 status from the IRS. So incorporation, I know I'm a retired attorney, but incorporation is not that hard to do a basic corporation. And receiving 501c3 status from the IRS is not difficult if you're a small organization. We are still a very small organization, but with, I don't want to quote you the figures, there are income and asset limits, but if you're below that, it's a real short form application to become a 501c3. So we did ours on both a charitable and an educational status. So we continued our charitable mission, and Kiwanis stayed involved because they are part of our board. The City Parks and Recreation is another part of our board. The County Extension is part of our board. And then people who work in the garden more than 20 hours over the season become members of the corporation. You don't buy membership in our corporation, you earn it. So, and then, as we always say, we pay in vegetables. Anybody that works in the garden, whether it's one session or all season, gets produce. But if you work more than 20 hours over the season, then you become a voting member of the corporation. So this is our location in the city park. Our booth fees are very low. We charge our vendors $5 a market. We don't charge any percentage of their sales. It's just $5 a market, and whether they're there one market or if they're there every week. It is important to have a wide selection of vendors. Yes, sir?
When you say selection of vendors, they apply to you and you have some determinants as to decide whether or not you're going to let them in?
We do. Because of the high visibility of our location, we've had a lot of small business people want to come in and participate in the market, you know, everything from ironworks to crafts to just all kinds of people. And we've taken the position, and for many years we were an Oklahoma grown market, and that has limits as to how many non-produce vendors you can have. What we've decided works for us is on a weekly basis, we keep the vendors to homegrown, handmade produce items. So really limited to that, and a soap vendor. We have a soap vendor that's been with us for a number of years. But we have, and this is a lesson I learned from this conference a couple of years ago, is one of the keys to a market, successful market, is having special events. So we've started having festivals. We started out with one, now we have one every month. And for us, we allow the broader spectrum of vendors to come in on a festival day. It brings us a little bit of money, and it gives something else to advertise, and it brings more people in for that. So, but on a general weekly basis, we keep them to handmade, locally grown, locally sourced produce and garden products. So, and we do have our rule sheet, and vendors, when they come to us, they have to fill out an application and agree to abide by the rules. And oh no, oh no. I don't remember which day that is, but yep.
That's a nice photo.
So, well, and Brenda she comes to us from retail. She doesn't get to work in the garden anymore. She's had heat issues, so we don't let her out in the garden. But her place is in the market, and we've learned that too, that because we're an all-volunteer organization, some volunteers would rather be out in the garden. Some people don't want to mess with the market. Some people specialize in giving garden tours, and then we have a good group of people that work just in the market. So it's finding a place for everybody. And just over and over and over getting the word out about your market. That's where our partnerships with ONI and with TSET have come in. They're just invaluable to us. The city of Mustang has a scrolling billboard in front of the community park, and when it's that season, they list us on their scrolling billboard. We're in the local newspaper. We've been very fortunate to have a partnership with the paper. We have a lot of coverage of the garden and the market in the newspaper, particularly when we have a festival. And then the recipe cards from ONI have been very well sought after. They're beautifully done. And people look at them and say, these are free? I said, yep. We have had made in Oklahoma bags before. The newspaper advertising, we have tried newspaper advertising, and in it by itself is pretty expensive. I think our key has been, we have another member of the garden who does all of our social media. She does our Facebook page, she tweets, she maintains our website. We last year instituted a texting service because many of you will know the weather can interfere with your market. So first year we were in Wildhorse, we canceled because of the weather, and our vendors let us know that that was not appreciated. So, but now we have a texting system, so if it's too bad to open, we will let people know. Otherwise, we try to persevere. But some of our partnerships, Courtney Keck, our Canadian County Extension horticulturist, is in the back. Many of the gardeners are master gardeners. Many of the gardeners are not. Part of our educational side is we try to hold classes and try to get kids and people involved in gardening. The Mustang Community Center has an after-school program, and we've had those kids out to help in the garden on a couple of different projects. If you want a row of sweet potato vines taken out, bring in some 9-year-olds. But one thing that we found out that was really interesting with them was a lot of those 9-year-olds had never used a shovel. So when it came time to dig the sweet potatoes, they wanted to know how to use a shovel. So another partnership we've had with Canadian County Extension is we've held the Junior Master Gardener Camp at our garden a number of times. So the kids have an outdoor lab, then they can go into the community center for lessons. The Parks and Recreation staff, like I said, they advertise for us. They're really hands-off. The city supplies our water, the city supplies our electricity for our watering system, and then everything else is pretty much on us. So the local businesses, Brenda has just been the asset that she brings to us is contacting the local businesses. We have a lot of small businesses in Mustang, and I'm sure in most towns there are small mom and pop businesses, and they support us and we support them. And then ODAF has been very helpful. We've learned from them. They've maintained a garden that we've learned from. SNAP, this was the first year that we've been able to accept SNAP benefits, and it's been slow, but it has really helped us grow. We have some more repeat customers. We still maintain our partnership with the Kiwanis Food Bank in that anybody coming to the food bank gets a card that's co-branded with Kiwanis and the Wildhorse Gardens. Then they can bring that card to the community gardens table at the farmer's market and select whatever they want. But now that we have SNAP, they can purchase from any of our vendors. So, and then TSET, we were able to, they've helped us with advertising. We had some grants last year with communication, and we used those to pay for our festivals because we really operate on a shoestring budget. We typically spend just about as much as we take in, but we look for opportunities throughout there. Many years our transplants have been grown by the high school 4-H program. We've even had plants that we've grown that we've gotten from the Federal Correction Center out in El Reno. They have a horticulture program and actually have a master gardener program out there within that facility. They can't sell their plants, but they can donate them. So that's another partnership that we've used. So it's kind of just, we ask people, and if they say yes, we find a place for them. Another important partnership has been with the Scouts, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. We have two raised beds that were built by an Eagle Scout. That was his project. And we use those we've used them for a variety of things. Last year we used them for flowers. And then the Girl Scouts built a pollinator garden, and it's in the shape of a butterfly. So, and then we had their Cub Scouts built benches and stepping stones to go around the garden. So, and they've had, the year that they built it, that at our first festival, the Girl Scouts manned a booth to talk about pollinators. One of the festivals that the first one we started with, and it's now, is National Farmers Market Week, which is typically the second week in August. So there's a lot of materials. This is just downloaded from the USDA website. And then, so I guess I'm turning it back over to you.
Okay. That was some very good information, Susan. Very, very good. I'll go into a few more examples of partnerships, different types of people and entities that you can partner with, and you supplied a lot of great examples, so thanks. It says here that farmers markets of any size can succeed, and this is true. Last summer for work, we went to 5 different communities throughout the state to see what they do locally to increase access to healthy foods, because a lot of times people can't get there due to a number of reasons. And one thing that struck me, I went to a couple of places. I live in Norman, and in Norman there's a very big farm market at the county fairgrounds with all kinds of vendors, dozens of vendors, all kinds of stuff. And so that's what I think about farm market. But when I went on this tour, places like Nowata and Langston and other places, they're much smaller, but they're so vibrant. There were a lot of people there, and they took their farmers market seriously. They took their produce seriously. They took the relationships seriously. I'm like, wow, this is really special. So it just goes to show that any farmers market, large or small, really can succeed as long as you have partners there. And so who can lend a hand to your market success? Again, Susan pointed out a number of great examples of who can do this, such as state government partnerships, TSET Healthy Living Program. Karen is here in Susan's county, in Canadian County, but we work, the HLP grantees often work with people who have farmers markets to lend support however we can, and it could be helpful. Education sector, OSU Extension, of course, they have a lot of expertise. Colleges, universities, career techs, 2- and 4-year colleges can be very helpful allies in keeping farmers markets vibrant and growing. Well, and then here is a shot of the one in Nowata, Oklahoma, in northeast Oklahoma. Interesting there, another partnership that we may not think of, but yet they're the most obvious, are the people who live there. The residents of your town, of your city, each and every one of them, they can be partners too. One thing that struck me when I was talking with them, a lot of time you think about farmers markets as being weekends, right? Saturdays, because that's when people are off and they can go shopping and everything. They actually, before opening it up, took surveys of people throughout the town to see what is it that you want? What kind of things do you want there? When do you want it to be open and things along those lines? And they found that for them, it's way more successful to have it midweek and not on Saturdays, because there are other surrounding communities that have Saturday markets, but there's nothing for them for during midweek. So they have theirs on Wednesdays instead of Saturdays. And that was kind of an indirect but important partnership with the people who actually live there to help sustain your market. Businesses and their organizations, chambers of commerce can be super helpful, economic development boards, and you mentioned a number of individual businesses who could be helpful. You may think about something that's food related, that could be very helpful, but you never know what type of business might be helpful. You could have someone who runs an auto garage, for instance, but that person or someone in their family is really gung-ho about markets, and so they may want to partner up with you.
Well, we've used that a lot for our Farmers Market Festival. That's the one festival where we have raffle prizes, and our local businesses have just, it's an opportunity for them to get themselves out in the community. So they've given us some very nice, $25, $30 gift cards to their business. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, it's really,
Partnership right there. That's good. That's very good. All right, so there's businesses of a wide variety. Don't narrow your focus. Think wide, because anyone could be interested. Then also community organizations. Churches and other places of worship could be very good partners with your farmers markets or your gardens. Service organizations, you think Kiwanis might help? Rotary, Lions, a lot of places that are there to do good in their communities. They could be strong partners. Community coalitions who could be health-based or anything else. They may believe in your town, and they see farmers markets and gardens as one way of being a positive force, and so they could be a good partner. And nonprofit agencies of a wide variety can be helpful. Role of social media. Social media, as you mentioned, you have Facebook. You didn't just have Facebook. You have Facebook with an exclamation point, like Facebook. It could be super. Yes. It could be very vital in getting your information out, such as weather things, or you mentioned the festivals that you guys have, right? So in Mustang, they have the regular farmers markets, but then people need to know about the special festivals and what makes them so that it may bring in even more people. Social media can be very helpful as far as that goes. But remember, as far as actually establishing relationships and building personal relationships, partnerships, there's no substitute for face-to-face interactions. No substitute at all. Social media can help build on those personal interactions, or they may be a starting point whereby you meet people and then you build on there. But as valuable as social media is, and by all means use it to the best of your ability, there's no substitute for getting to know people where they are.